thing for me is thinking of what to write, what subject, and I do that. I spend a lot of time doing that. And then when I have an idea that I think I can work with, I sit down with my computer. I have a blank page open. I have a tab with a dictionary open, and I have a tab with a thesaurus open. And I write, and then I go back and look at that sentence, and I make sure every word is what I really want to say. I look at the thesaurus. Is there a better way to say that? I edit it, and then I write the next sentence. And I do that over and over and over, and I edit, and I edit, and I edit. And eventually, I'm happy with it, and I submit it somewhere. If I were going to give advice to somebody about writing, I think it's the same advice I read everywhere, hear everybody say. I think it's what everybody says, and that's just to write. You just write, and you get better at it, and you go back and look at stuff you wrote 5 years ago, and you think, my gosh, this is not very good, because you've gotten better. The book that I've written is called Tales of a Virtuous Woman Wannabe. And for years, I've been writing these articles, and people had told me that I should put them together into a book, but I had no theme to make them into a unit. And I couldn't, for the longest time, I couldn't get that together. How do I string these things together to make a work? And I wrote a humor piece about learning to sew when I was young, and I titled it Tales of a Virtuous Woman Wannabe, because it was just... the whole thing just fell apart, my sewing experience. And I realized when I had written it that Tales of a Virtuous Woman Wannabe, that's the whole premise of my writing. It's that there are expectations of what a woman, perhaps a particular woman of my generation, should look like and should be, and how I fell flat in meeting those expectations every time I tried, because that is not who God created me to be. And as I began to think about that, it became a unit, and it became doable in my mind. And I took a lot of humor pieces I'd already written and added some to them, and worked them around the verses of Proverbs 31 that are the virtuous woman passage in the Bible. And so each verse would have a humor story about how I had not been able to reach that expectation, and then followed by some piece about my life where I had realized that doesn't matter, that's in my relationship with the Lord. None of that really matters. He didn't create me to be that in the first place, and the fact that I was trying to was just silly and ridiculous and fodder for humor stories. And so that gave me the ability to write this book, put it all together, and I looked into having it published, but that is a major undertaking that I just didn't want to give the time to. So I self-published it and sold it on Amazon, sold it here in town locally, and I have a passage or maybe two from it to read to you. One is humor. That's the one I'm going to begin with. This is, let's see, which piece? This is in the chapter talking about how a woman brings good and not harm to her husband all the days of her life. I have occasionally broken a few rules of the virtuous woman's polite society. I once went 5 years without going to the dentist. I've been known to smuggle Coke bottles and candy packages into a movie theater in my purse. And the scissors that I accidentally took from my daughter's schoolroom, the ones labeled property of the kindergarten class, I didn't return them. You will be astounded to learn that when my youngest child was a baby, a warrant was issued for my arrest by a district court in Kentucky. I blame that blunder on my husband. This is the story of my legal misconduct. The crime. A city police officer pulled me over for driving 15 miles over the speed limit. The appeal. I stuffed the box of dry cereal I had been eating for breakfast under my seat, wiped my mouth with our infant daughter's spit-up rag. It was the only faux napkin available other than the used tissue on the floor and the ketchup-covered Burger King bag in the back seat. Then I appealed for leniency with the best smile and slight eyebrow flirt I could muster after 20 years of marriage. The denial. Evidently, the police officer was not impressed with my grinning grimace or with the odor of Honey Nut Cheerios and dry baby puke on my breath. because he handed me a ticket and a 3-figure fine. What my lawyer said. My husband, the lawyer, said a lot of things that I won't repeat, but his last words were, "Don't pay the fine, I'll take care of it." A few weeks later, a warrant was issued for my arrest for failure to appear in court to pay that fine. My lawyer had not taken care of it. My response. I was upset with my husband for quite a while, but then I began to see possibilities in the situation. I wondered what would happen if I welcomed the arresting deputy into my home, took the warrant from his hands, and willingly went to jail. I would either have a little quiet time to myself or have the opportunity to make some interesting new friends. Of course, I would have to insist that the deputy stay and take care of my kids, but he had agreed to hazardous duty when he pinned on his badge. After a few urgent phone calls, my husband got the warrant dismissed. I admit to being a bit disappointed when that happened. A part of me was looking forward to an encounter with the police. I had thought about the situation carefully and decided I would not remain silent. "Hello, deputy. I'm willing to go to the police station, but you need to stay here with my children. Load all the kids into my car. Take number 1 out for practice driving time. Make number 2 do her bathroom chores. Stick your head in the toilet bowl to make sure she's cleaned under the rim. Number 3 has a model of the solar system due tomorrow. Do not, under any circumstances, let him help with the project, but make it look like 4th grade work. Make 2 dozen clown-faced cupcakes for number 4 to take to school in the morning, and number 5 has been sitting in a wet diaper so long her bum cheeks have shriveled up like raisins. You should do something about that. I need to borrow the keys to the squad car so I can drive myself to jail. Insist that I go directly to jail. Do not let me pass Walmart. Do not let me stop and collect groceries. You are on duty until my husband gets home. When he arrives, feel free to leave him with the children, unarmed and outnumbered. While he's serving here in harm's way, I'll be running the siren on the squad car in a boisterous accompaniment to the Hallelujah chorus I'll be singing while I'm gone." So if you want to know how you can get a copy of Tales of the Virtuous Woman Wannabe, you can order it from Amazon. It's also available locally. Greg usually keeps a copy or 2 at his office. Greg's city attorney in Calvert City. And they also usually have a few copies at the Basket Case in Calvert City. So you can pick them up either one of those places if you're looking locally.